Hello. So something I often find with students is that they have a lot of theoretical knowledge, like they know a lot of chord scales, they can even play them on the guitar quite well, they know what scale fits over what chord, but they have absolutely no ability to make them sound good, and they wonder why. And I just thought I'd focus my video on that. It connects to a lot of wider issues about how we understand, teach and practice jazz language. But I think in just this one simple example, we can learn a bit about how to, quotes, do it properly. But I mean, this makes a big difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play some examples of how I hear people playing, and I'll tell you what's wrong with that in a second. So those three different examples were a bit different. Like in the first example, I was using a lot of kind of repeating language, which you don't tend to get too much in jazz. You might get it in fusion music with players like Aldi Meola and John McLaughlin and so on, and that's not to mention the more modern instrumental fusion tread guys like Guthrie Govan. But it's not something which really works in jazz, and actually if they were going to use that, they'd use it in a slightly better way. Then the second one was just scales going up and down, which sounded awful. And the third one was me playing intervals. So following the commonly given bit of jazz advice that you want to break up the scales because stepwise scales sound boring, which is you often hear in jazz education and is, in my opinion, completely wrong. Okay, because stepwise scales sound just great when somebody like Miles Davis or Cannonball Adderley or a modern player even like Kurt Rosenwinkel or Mike Marino use them, and they use them all the time. All you have to do is transcribe. Even Charlie Parker's playing contains quite a lot of straight scales up and down. So why does he sound good and why does that sound awful? And for me, a strong part of the connection is always starting your lines with the goal in mind, right? I think the biggest problem with starting improvisers is they don't really hear where their scales are going to end up, or their lines, or whatever it is. So that's one of the things that can help you make it sound like language, and I'm going to hopefully demonstrate that to you right now. So I'll just do the altered scale going into C major. So we're going to play G altered, as we did in those examples just then, going into C major, and that gives us a little bit of time to set up. When doing this kind of thing, it's vitally important not to stress too much and jump in early. D minor. D minor. G7. Let's do it the D minor as well. Okay, in all of those examples, I wasn't doing anything more than just playing stepwise scales. And while I wouldn't do this as a soloist, apart from on the C major chord where I just expressed the chord quite simply, either as a C triad or an E minor triad. Now the thing is that I wouldn't necessarily play just scale steps up and down like I just did. But it's surprising how much jazz language is actually just scale steps. What made me sound good? What was the difference between my hopefully more professional sounding examples and the bad examples I posted? Just take a minute, stop the video here and think about it, and maybe listen back to it again. You haven't done it, have you? Do it. Okay, all right then, you're not going to do it. I'm going to give you the, maybe you did. I'm going to give you the secret. It's really very simple. They're just connected. So in the last example I played, I can't remember exactly what I played, but I played a D minor Dorian scale going. And then instead of like changing that, or you could go, well, that's resolving to the second or ninth. That's quite cute. So what I did there is I just went up the scale, Dorian, and then I went into the G altered. You keep going down and just hit that third, and it sounds nice. Now, there's a certain amount of skill involved in this, but the concept is something which I first learned about from Hal Galper in his book Forward Motion. I'll attach a link below. But I think actually most good jazz educators use a concept which is related, although they might put it in the same language. Barry Harris certainly teaches that way. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm just connecting each scale by a semitone or a tone. So if I'm coming down, let's take the example just to keep it simple of going G7 altered into C major. Now, what makes the altered scale powerful is that it is a really good device for resolving into the next chord. I don't really care about any of these funny notes that are, you know, bum, ba, bum, bum, sorry. Anyway, you get the idea, right? So, I mean, funny notes can actually form things like triads, which sound good, but the triads always sound to me like they're standing apart from the chord underneath, which is something I feel similarly about with as Jordan Clemens does, and you know his teaching revolves really around the triads having an independent harmonic life beyond the chord. And I think that bears up with experience. For instance, I was transcribing a Kenny Garrett tune earlier called Sing Me a Song of Song, which you might know. It's a nice tune. Deceptively interesting harmony, even though the melody is very accessible. And at the end of the B section it has a chord which I heard initially as an F major triad. And then I listened to it on headphones and realised it was an E flat and a bass. So obviously I thought, oh yeah, that's a common Lydian chord. And then the melody is singing a B. So it's a Lydian augmented kind of structure. But I definitely heard the melody separately, the F triad separately, and the bass on E flat separately. Okay? And that to me, again with the altered scale, if I hear something like, you know, an A flat minor going into a C major 7th chord, I hear that as an A flat minor triad. I don't hear that as some upper structural G7. I don't hear that way. Maybe you do, but I think probably most people hear triads, which is why the triadic approach is so powerful. So when we come to scales, it's like, you know, well, if it's acting harmonically, and I'll demonstrate later that it isn't acting harmonically, why is that a good sound to use in the C major chord? And the simple thing is I think it's just full of interesting little nooks and crannies. So I'm going to take every note of the altered scale and resolve it into C major, right? So this is, well, that stays on a G, so usually we come down from the next, from the next 2 notes above it. Sorry, like that, yeah. And then you have the next note on the C major chord, which is C. Okay. So you've got a 7th, which goes up, and a flat 2, which goes down. Now, critically, that C note isn't in the altered scale. So the altered scale is like a massive enclosure, if you like, to the C major chord. I mean, G, you know, is obviously not there. Sorry, it's there in the scale, so it doesn't quite count. But you hear those resolutions all the time in jazz, you know. So if I go, or, you know, something like that, or maybe this, or maybe going up to the next note. G. Ever hear that? Okay, so the thing that makes that sound good is just the way the semitones connect into the following chord. Now, not every line works like that, but it's a fantastic way to practice, and quite a lot of them do. So that sort of idea of just not just noodling around, but starting with the end in sight. So you've got your crosshairs focused on in this case, a note of C minor triad, and then you play a line which kind of weaves around it and then resolves to it. It's the same whether you're playing chromatics like this, you know, this is whether you're using that quite traditional approach, or whether you're using some structure like the auto scale or half whole scale, or there's an old-fashioned way of doing it with the whole tone scale. You hear Bapao play that kind of thing quite a lot. And of course Pasquale Grasso. And earlier players too, like, you know, even people like Fats Waller, I think I've heard do it, you know, so it's like going right back. And really the concept is you've got an outside thing, a thing which actually stands notably outside a chord, and then a resolution. So it's tension and resolution. And unless you have that connection, it doesn't work, which is why my first examples didn't work. You know, even if you're playing intervallically, for instance, like you, I don't know, doing something like this, that still works as a resolution, right? So it's a very simple concept that I don't see popularised that much by certainly teachers on YouTube, and I think it's massively important. The other thing is doing that will help you swing more. As I'm going to explore in some of the videos, there's some important connections between how, not only how you play rhythm, but also how you construct lines in terms of chromatics and resolutions and so on. That will help your line swing. If your lines don't have that to start off with, you're always going to be on the back foot when trying to make them swing. And invariably when I find myself transcribing or coming up with lines, if a line doesn't work rhythmically, it's usually because I haven't worked out where the notes go. So the rhythm tells you where the strong points need to be. And again, it's basically down to hearing triads. I'm going to go into more detail in future videos, as I just want to make this nice and simple and clear, but this has got far-reaching implications. So, how do you practice that? Well, let's take, this is a nice line, wasn't it, I thought? Yeah, let's take that one. So the first thing is work out where it starts, because it finishes on 1, so making all our resolutions to beat 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So it starts on beat 1 of the previous bar. Nice and simple, right? So you start off with the last note, 1, and then the and preceding it, 1, and then 4, the previous beat, 4 and 1, 4, 1, okay? Then the next note, which is on the and of 3, 3. Okay, or 3 and 4, sorry, 3 and 4 and, what's this one to do? 3 and 4 and 1, this is starting the end of 3. So even I can get something out practicing that, right? We go 3, let's see, 3 and 4 and 1, 3, 1, 3, 4, sorry, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. It's better in a way to do it with just the numbers. If you can't do it with the ands as well, but if you just do it with the numbers, it kind of gets you away from having to count absolutely everything as you play it. Okay, so the next note would be on 3, 3 and 4 and 1, 3 and 4 and 1, 3, 4, 1, okay? The next note would be on the and of 2, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, okay? Next one would be on the 2, 2, 3, 4, 1. The next one would be the and of 1, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. The next one would be on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? Yeah? So that's how you practice it, and the whole line just flows. Okay? And here we go, resolving to the last note. Really important stuff. I don't hear it enough talked about, I think. You know, this stuff changed my life. And you do it with anything, like if you're just resolving a diminished arpeggio into the target chord, like. So 1, 2, so it'd be on the 3, 3 and 4 and 1. Well, ones that make it a bit hipper and started on the and of 3. 1, 2, sorry, and of 2 rather. 1, 2 and 3. Sorry, it'd be that. 1, 2 and 2. I'll just count it out. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See, and it swings when I play it back, right? Because it's designed to swing now. So boom, bam, boom, ba-doom, bam, boom. And of course, you can do this with anything. You can do it with the diminished scale. Let's do a line. So no, that doesn't work. Oh, no, I like that. So boom, ba-ba-dee, ba-ba-dee. So, ba-do, ba-dee, dee, ba-dee. So I think it's on the end of 1. 1. No, it's on the end of something else. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Starts on the 4 of the previous bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. No. My brain's going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you can also do it with the diminished scale, for instance. So here's an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah, that works very well. So it's on the end of 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, but it ends up on the 1. You probably heard that one from a few solos. So that is, again, we can practice it. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you just build up like that. So these are sort of conventional choices for this scale, but you could really run anything if you're doing it with this kind of rhythmic concept. Here's an example using the D flat mixolydian, which often gets not used because of the F sharp in it. But actually, if you look at it from the point of view of how does it resolve to C major chord, it's even better, right? Because you can also wrap around the G. So if you look at it that way, it's actually a really good idea. So if we go like that, right? So we're just making a thing of that enclosure of the last note. And that kind of makes the F sharp not really a big deal, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. No, sorry, what am I doing? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, that one there, right? I think I'm going to leave in some of these examples of me counting through it just because it's good for you to see that. It's an important part coming up with lines is to be able to make sure they rhythmically work, and this is the process that I use. So if we start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, something like that, or even if we just resolve to another note, so we're still playing the F sharp, but we might be going. It still works, right? And I'll show you that last one. I'm going to do that with the backing track. Sounds good, right? No, the F sharp is really not a problem in that context. It's just a passing note, and it's fine because we know where we're going, right? We could use a more outside thing, so maybe use instead of a D flat mixolydian or B flat dominant, we could use something like I don't know, for instance, F sharp major seventh, F sharp major scale. Yeah. Let's see if that works. F sharps shouldn't work, right? Go back to me. That literally is going. It doesn't sound that weird, right? So that's something worth kind of exploring in your lines, I think. If you're having trouble making scales sound good, join them up to chord tones, resolve them. Okay? Thanks for watching. I hope you find that really useful because I did. Post any comments below. Bye.